100 people sort of worked on it, but he was the main, supposedly the main thing. Yeah? And so it's sort of a living book, basically. And then years later, he did another book, but you could tell it was from him, not so much. Oh, yeah. It worked out before.
Yeah. Don't obscure the teaching.
Oh, yeah. No, fuck the teaching. No. So, but whatever. So I was at a meeting yesterday, and they were reading out of this book. You know, they have them book studies, and people read, and then people riff. And I was hoping they were reading this chapter, We Agnostics. So where this guy, we don't have this, is it started? All right, it's fine. This guy, the one who wrote it, Bill W., was trying to, in a way, convince people that they're screwed in a way, and that maybe their biases and their contempts prior to investigation weren't really serving them, and maybe there was other possibilities. And he seemed to really bend over backwards to try to make it available to everyone. Yeah, to me, I thought he went a little too far, but he goes in. So this We Agnostics is that because the whole program, in a sense, is based on either on a reliance or surrender to something greater than self. Now, at that time, people would imply that would be God, but that leap's not necessary. It's just something greater than what has you now. Yeah, see, this is the dilemma. What has us now is the dominant influence, and we don't know we're identified as something that we're not because we're identified as something that we're not. You know what I mean? And so we live a lot from that. Yeah. And you can tell because it's quite suited to interpretation, because it doesn't really, it has to be produced, so it doesn't really care about living, it cares about my life. Yeah. Yeah, it's different. So like if when you were young, there's had to be a certain point there where life was happening. You were just there, you know, didn't have a name yet really, didn't see. Yeah, it was just life was happening. And then you could tell as something developed, you want to call it the brain or whatever, it started to change into an interpretation. And then time got introduced. So now you were worried, and then other was introduced, and a lot of people in this system are worried how other people are thinking about them, or how other people view them, which is just a projection of how they're thinking and how they're viewing themselves. But you know, yeah, so the self, this idea of being a singular unit, that's the doer of a lot of stuff, yeah, the cause of a lot of stuff, like the cause of feelings and thoughts, because they're seen as mind, yeah, and actions especially. It's a little bit of an overwhelming condition. So when that condition is confronted with its own failure, it tends to show its teeth, so to speak, yeah, the system. Yeah, you can see when you've irritated it, like a lot of times when people have an aha or something, and then usually followed by a shitstorm, the head will go off on major advertisements, you know what I mean? To cut that possibility off at the root. So they were talking about this whole thing about agnostics, you know, because they have an idea. He was assuming they run into the idea of God as, you know. So he bend over backwards, and he gets to this point, and it's not about. The point is, I want to speak about this energy faith, not a faith, not like Catholicism or Judaism or Buddhism. Buddhism's not really a religion, it's a way of life, but those things, but faith as a force, yeah? Yeah, like Jesus didn't say Catholicism, you know, the size of a whatever, mustard seed can move mountains. He said faith. He didn't say the vehicle is what's moving the mountains. Yeah, it's not Islam or Judaism or Catholicism, it's faith. Faith the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain. Yeah. Now, people, in a way, don't believe they have faith, which is faith in that. Yeah, you have a faith in the system that says you don't have any faith. And so the system is more than happy to find a faith, yeah, because its faith in itself can thrive there, yeah. But if you take a step back and see that which is claiming to be you and the wielder of faith is an idea that there's faith in, yeah, this is the bondage of self. The bondage of self is there's faith in this impossibility. That's what it is. So if you look at people causing an effect now, or people as an expression of an effect of causing an effect now from what's not happening, what is that but an example of faith? You have faith, you believe fervently that there is a yesterday and tomorrow, and you're afraid on some level you as this are not or was not taken care of. Yeah? So you can cause a feeling now which isn't produced seemingly by the circumstances of now. What is that but faith? What could produce that? What could produce false evidence appearing real but faith? Yeah. Take it back. False evidence just randomly doesn't appear real. First of all, it has to appear real to someone who has faith in it. Yes, false evidence just walks around. False evidence, it just keeps appearing. Wow, I can't get out of this world of false evidence appearing real. No, there is no. It's an appearance to something. So it's appearing to how I'm formatted right now, that there is that there's something that could happen or did happen that I'm afraid of happening now. Yeah? And so it's, the Course, I think, in one way, the Course in Miracles would call them causeless effects. So what's a causeless effect? An effect in dreaming would be causeless because dreaming isn't real. Yeah? Dreaming is an activity of imagining. Yeah? So the dreaming, if there's an effect in the dream, it's not caused by the dream in a sense. Yeah? It's caused by how it's beholden, in that case, the dreamer. So the dreamer is having faith in what's being dreamt. And then the dreamt affects the dreamer. So suddenly the dreamer has given, without, you don't notice it because you start here. But there's been, like the Course would say, there's projection and perception. So the dreaming would be projected. Hey, this is a real place. I've had fucking terrible days. I'm afraid I'll be destitute, even though I'm not right now, because I was destitute. And it's not even the destitution and what it means to me. It means no one will respect me, no one will like me, I'll never go horizontal with another woman. Destitution means a lot of shit. It's not the destitution I'm really worried about, because I have faith that the destitution would cause these fucking effects. And so I live as if those effects are factual now, based on the power of faith. I just don't see, here. So he says, without knowing it, this is the whole point. This is the whole point of talks, is to try to point out shit that we're in the act of not knowing. So if all you know is you're screwed, but you don't know the mechanism of what keeps maintaining and reinforcing the screwing, yeah? That's ignorance. You're ignoring something. You're experiencing its effects, but you're ignoring how it's produced. Yeah. So obviously the relief wouldn't be fucking smoting the effects, because that would be a heroic daily activity. It would to see is it really based on true evidence or false evidence? If this heaviness is seen as based on true evidence, it's super heavy. If the same heaviness you see as based on false evidence, there's a lightness to it. You can travel lighter through it. Yeah? the way through the jungle isn't through a machete. It isn't. A machete increases the growth, yeah? Skillful means are good when your house is on fire, but it's much better to see your role in the fires that you're trying to get out of all day. There's much more relief there. You don't want to become a master of escaping fires. You just don't want any fires set, yeah? Yes? Do you want to have that as the bar of success? I know how to get out of shit. Well, great. Or I know how to stop drinking. Well, really, do you know how to not start drinking? That's the coolest thing. If you don't start, you won't have to be a master of stopping. It's just so beautiful. If you just, the mind has the ability to hold, to go down these chains. The mental state gives us a very short linkage. This, therefore, that, yeah? And it's all predicated on an assumption, which is you're the doer, the thinker, the one who's seeing, feeling, tasting, yeah? And it gives you such a short little chain, like with 3 links, yeah? There's so much more if you could just, and the second thing is you can't get to this. How you get to this is seeing you're not this you, yeah? The aperture opens not for the you or as the you, but from the you. You see you're not this little myopic object that's constantly taking all the attention and interest, and then the camera opens up more and you see more. The same scene is defined by this tunnel vision. That's not the size of the scene. The scene is defined by what it's moving through. If it opens up, there's just tons of more seeing. And it's not like you gathered up more seeing. It's just the possibility has always been there. Yeah? So here, without knowing it, had we not been brought, yeah, we can use it right now. Without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith. Not a religion, but faith, a force, yeah? For did we not believe in our own reasoning? Or you can say, didn't we not believe in our own thinking? How do you do that? The first thing is you believe you're the thinker. That locks you right into the system of thinking. Yeah, it's not the thinking that locks you in, it's the thinker. Then the thinking reinforces the thinker, yeah? But the idea of the thinker is the lock. So now you try to get out of the system as a thinker. That's being in the system. So, did we not have confidence in our ability to think? Shit, yeah. What was that but a sort of faith? He's describing it. He may not have known it, but he's describing exactly what I'm attempting to share. Did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What would be the confidence in our ability to think? Faith. Confidence, trust, whatever you want to use, it's faith, yeah? And it says, what was that but a sort of faith? Yeah. There's tons of sorts of faith, but it's faith-based, yeah? So he goes, yes, we had been faithful, abjectly faithful to the God of reason. So to me, to the quote-unquote false God or the self, yes? Yeah. That's the whole point. The self isn't dominating you, it's the faith in the self that allows it to dominate you. You might as well be clear about it, because if you keep fighting self, all you're doing is reinforcing it. Self can't get out of self. So in one way or another, maybe a talk like this, yeah, it's a nicer way. So in one way or another, we discovered that faith had been involved all the time. Now, I mean all means all. So not just in 1939, but all the time. Exactly. Faith is probably the main driving force in the dreaming. Yeah? Now, how the dreaming is manifested is space and time, but it's the faith in it that gives it its fucking colors and its light and its just the surety that it is so real, because you can feel it, taste it, and touch it, and it can harm you. Yeah? So I just wanted to put that out there because I feel like we're sitting most of the time as the solution, talking about the problem as the problem. Yeah? It doesn't go that far. Yeah, the problem can lessen or it can increase. Yeah? So maybe you'll really value the lessening of it because you live in a fear that it can increase at any moment. And maybe you would see that's a damn good upgrade. It's lessened. I still have anxiety, it could come back at any moment, but it's better than the last way. But still, it's still defined by a dualistic expression. There's other possibilities before it, yeah? Where faith resides before it, yeah? Without faith, there wouldn't be the belief in the two. Yeah, so what would happen? So what is it? Do I need faith? No, I have tons of it. What I need is a clear direction of the faith, which I cannot produce. Because the faith that's been given to this appears to be, I think I can do it. The faith in the failed system is that, wait a minute, I think I can get myself out of the system. That's the dilemma. That's like, they talk about one of the major dilemmas if people in addiction, they believe if they could only manage better, everything would go well. Well, in the system of selfing, it's self wanting to get out of self. It truly believes it can get out of this thing. Yeah? And all it does is uses a vehicle to get out, finally, hopefully, gives up the ghost, sees that it's failed, and you would think it would be able to stop and pause and have a sober assessment. No, it just gets in another vehicle and tries to ram the fucking wall again, and then in Buddhism, Kabbalah, Taoism, fucking getting loaded, not getting, it's working out, it's boom, boom, boom. It's self trying to get out of self. It's the true aberration of the system. If you get down to its causes and conditions, it's just this, it does not believe that it's impossible to get out of it. It believes it can leave this situation as the situation. It believes it's going to be playing golf in heaven. It does. It does. It believes once I get through this, I'll be somewhere better, bigger, just as a nicer self. This time I'll have better joints, let's say. Or, you know what I mean? It's always based on circumstances and situations. Yeah. There's a huge faith in the system. You don't try to manage the faith, you just admit the direction it's in and come to a sober assessment, really. Like, I had it all at once, I'm screwed. Yeah, and it's never changed or been debated or reviewed every year. You know, it just became so fundamentally clear that any movement is gonna be off. Yeah, because every movement implies the mover. Yeah. So when I'm trying to move to becoming the non-mover, I'm the mover, trying to get to the non-mover, or the doer, trying to get to the non-doer, or the self, trying to get to the non-self, yes? It's an impossibility. You can't get out of the system as the system. That's the real awakening here is the root awakening. Yeah? It's not root to you, it's root to the system. The system finally gets overridden with a clear assessment. Hey, you're screwed. You're not getting out of here. It's the great wisdom of no escape. The great wisdom of no escape, in my view, is you can't escape from an imaginary place. Yeah? So false evidence has been appearing real to us. And how does that keep getting sustained? It's faith. So maybe I could just go, hey, I would love to see this faith redirected. Yeah, it's not my job, not my position, but hey, it would be nice to see differently, you know? And then see what happens. Yeah. And then now, and in AA, we talk about it, a simple thing. It says, why are you in so much fear today? Isn't it because self-reliance has failed you? So what would be reliance? Faith, really? So let's say faith in self has failed us. Okay, And so he says, perhaps there's a better way. What's that way? Trusting something infinite rather than finite self, or having faith in something infinite rather than having faith in something finite. That's basically, and that identification as the finite can't move the faith from itself to the infinite. It takes the finite with it, yeah? And all the while it's believing it's going to arrive at faith in the infinite. It's really having true faith in the finite, faith that it's the doer, that it can be done, that it can get there, yeah? It can get it, it can have it, it can hold it, it can maintain it, it can be vigilant around it. Once I grab it, I'm never going to let it go. That's complete faith in the failed system, yeah? There's not one category, all right, I failed here, but spirituality, I can succeed. Well, this is an absolute. Self can't get out of self. So yet there's an urge to get out. So maybe the urge to get out is misinformed. Maybe it's faith that you're in that would be nicely questioned, yeah. If you see that you're not in what you think you are, maybe there won't be any drive to get out of it. And so now you short-circuited false evidence appearing real. And now the whole system that's reinforcing the idea of you as what you're not is now it's revelatory because it's actually revealing what you're not to what you are, yeah? Instead of all the shit, all the information, all day, the narrative all day, everything that's taken and claimed, reinforcing the idea of what I'm not, that same activity, yeah, now reinforces I'm not that. You switch it around. You break the distribution line, yeah? You don't, yeah? But something changes it. So now, all day, the evidence that used to imply you is used to imply not you. It's beautiful. Nothing gets thrown out, nothing. That the avalanche of reinforcing of what you're not is now used to show that you're not that, yeah? Because obviously what you are doesn't need any fucking advertising. Doesn't need reinforcing. What you are can stand completely on its own. It doesn't need support. It doesn't need, you're that, you're that, you're that. No. What you're not needs, you're that, you're that, you're that, you're that, you're that. And what you're not does it with, I'm not a body, but it's chanting it as a body. Yeah? But this suddenly now, the same information flow, seemingly going, let's say, I don't want to say anything political, but all right, same information flow, sort of just gets put a new spin on it, instead of it all, oh yeah, that's me, oh yeah, that's me, oh, I don't want to be that, whatever. It's now, all of it, it's not me. Hallelujah. So the constant reminder that would always be about you all day is now a constant reminder to what you are about what you're not. It's so beautiful, yeah? You want fucking support? This whole place is supporting what you are because it's what you're not all day, yeah? Everything is what you're not. That's the beauty of it. Why would Buddhism go in and say, everything is inherently empty? Exactly. Everything is inherently empty of being what you are. It's inherently empty. We're having faith and giving meaning and weight and energy and value to it. We're not, but the system is, yeah? So that can reinforce this. For this to feel real, this has to be real. You don't get it. You don't get that this thing trying to make this unreal is making it as real can be because it makes this as real can be. There's no way it's going to see what's happening here. It's against its fucking primary directive, which is you. Always you, the survival of self. It's not going to go against that. That's its primary mission. You thinking you're on a mission for the truth. No, its primary mission is being the one on the mission to the truth. Yeah? So the truth gets fucking mutated by you being on the mission because you are that which you're looking for. I don't care, you can, swear, there's thousands of ways. Every few years there'll be a new wave of super drugs that you can take and bypass tons of shit and you'll be there. Now it's ayahuasca and stuff. It'll be something else, back to LSD, or they'll find more stuff. It never ends. It's always self wanting to get out of itself and still be there. Yeah. This isn't for the faint of heart, man. The scariest fucking thing is ordinariness. See that you don't mean much, really, and it's not a crushing blow. It's liberating if you can just hold. Don't slump down and no mas. Just take the body punches. They're fantastic. Go to the 12 rounds. They'll be worth it. You'll never get in the ring again. There'll be no comebacks for the ex-champ. Yeah. You'll be convinced. Convinced that your faith seemingly isn't serving you. Really isn't. It's not your faith, but the language, it's difficult. But faith, the way it's being directed now, isn't serving. It isn't. And you can't get out of what you believe you're in. So you just have to see you're not that which is in. You don't have to believe you're in or out. Just realize whatever thinks it's in and out is not you. Yeah. So basically, it's like the thing of, hey, being convinced a non-existent thing, or whatever, presupposing of a non-existent thing being existent, and then wanting to get salvation for the non-existent thing. If your salvation is premised on the non-existent thing, which you're taking to be existing, then basically, if it's non-existing, then your salvation is inherent. If it's predicated on salvation from a non-existent thing, or for a non-existent thing, you already got it because it's non-existent. Yeah? So the idea of salvation as a place you're going to arrive at is a mimicking and a real weird interpretation of the inherent salvation of our absolute condition. Yeah? Why not allow the monopoly board, even though it's your monopoly board, the Eiffel Tower, your boot for 30, 40, 60 years. Why don't you send it back to Milton Bradley and get the fucking square zero correctly placed? Get back on the board and you'll see it differently. The seeing is just being directed, into a form of looking. When the form of looking is dominant, it's blind to the seeing. And it's basically the worst thing to use to look for the seeing, because it's the seeing in disguise. So you are the Buddha, and you're in the act of seeking for the Buddha as the Buddha. That's why it's not working. Yeah? It doesn't work. If you are that which you're looking for it will not work. That's the big hypothesis of non-duality. You're in it or not. If you don't believe that, then keep looking. But non-duality is basically, its premise is you are that which you've been looking for. You are that inherent condition. You never not have been that. It's always been the case. If you don't go for that, then you're going to be trying to find the inherent condition or produce the inherent condition, whatever. But the fundamental suggestion of non-duality is you can't use yourself to find yourself, because what you're looking for is what's looking. It's not a concept or an arrival point or a mythical fucking magical place. It's actually what's looking right now. If you're not in on that, I would say you're not that's not in on that. Tell you the truth. But if you really, really believe it, then you just, admit you're shopping at the wrong store. Yeah. this year. Here you're going to realize the warranty has expired completely. There's a, what do they call them? Recalls. There's a massive recall. Stop driving the way you're driving. It's killing you. Just fucking, yeah, that's, I find it so beautiful in my own, you know, in a humbling little, limited, conceptualized format, it can still honor the brilliance of something so beyond its comprehension and its ability to describe and name and then think it knows. You can have a wonderful sense of the bewildered honoring of what is, really. You can. It doesn't mean you kneel down, you're just in awe in a lot of ways. Yeah. Like there's these statements in recovery, it says, you'll suddenly realize, and they use the word God, but let's just say power. You suddenly realize a power greater than self is doing for you what you could not do for yourself. It's beautiful, right? Now, you could sit and describe tons of those events in one's life, of a power greater than me doing through me what me couldn't do for itself. Yeah? That's incredible to me, yeah. And it's a sudden realization, because the sudden realization, the only way in time mimics the realization of what is timeless, yeah, could occur would be suddenly. It would have to be like the quickest bit of time that could, like, in a faded way, mimic what's always realized, yeah? So there's a sudden realization. In other words, as close to timelessness as possible here, a very sudden realization that something is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Fucking unbelievable, yeah? Yeah. Now faith, if it gets the scent of that, of what is, it knows exactly where to go. And faith in that which is worthy of faith is like a huge amount of power. Yeah, we're having faith in imaginary stuff and producing incredible hellacious effects. Can you imagine having faith in what is real? Yeah, I would imagine it would be a quantum leap in expression. Yeah, yeah. We're giving false evidence the appearance of being real a lot. Could you imagine we gave that real evidence the appearance of being real in this life? You'd travel lighter. That would be how you could translate it here. You'd look at it over the years and you'd say, I can't remember much particulars, but I can definitely have a feeling of traveling lighter. And that traveling lighter is really provided because I have a feeling of traveling fucking heavy for a long, long time. So duality becomes an incredible teacher. You go, wow, yeah. Now, I thought I was doing all that, and I don't feel like I'm doing any of this. Hey, seems like a good deal. Let's just lean this way. So Ramana would say, I've been reading some of this old stuff I got these little booklets when I was in India. Because a lot of his followers wrote stuff. Some I like more than others, but these are pretty good. And in this one, it's constantly going to just the two possibilities he saw as available, which is, you know, starting to investigate, I'm paraphrasing, starting to investigate the cause of the seeming misery, yeah? And or surrender and realizing you're not equipped to live life on life's terms, and you surrender by, it's an admittance of the failure of the system, really. and thy will be done. And then after a while, you'll observe thy will is done. So those are the two options, so to speak, in this dreaming. Either you get to look at the exact nature of the wrong and see there is no wrong in it, really. Yeah, because the exact nature of the wrong is a nature of dreaming. Everything is appearing to be so. It's not so. See? It doesn't matter how so it's been in time, 40 or 50 years, it still doesn't make it so. Yeah? Because the time is of dreaming. So these are causeless effects that you can give length to and meaning to and fucking weight, yet not the weight or the length of time gives it any more real meaning than an imaginary little second of a thought. Yeah? Yeah. Then there's the surrender, which is realizing you're just not managerial quality. By your own observation, you've realized you're your own worst enemy, really. You've been trying to kill you, or it plays so small, or whatever. And do you think the prize is to be alone and right? I don't see that as an optimal, an optimal condition of an 80-year sprint, And I don't think a lot of people, when on their deathbed, think they should have went to work more. Or shit. You know what I mean? It's usually what really hits them is fucking, they've seemed to have been at a life's auction, and they were enslaved, really. They didn't love enough, or was available enough, or look at flowers enough, or pet the dog more, or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad thing to take the last minute advice. Yeah. When the system's shutting down, it gives you its own little value, and you can't just fucking spit at that. Hey, wait a minute. That's how I learned a lot. I remember when I was young, I got in a lot of trouble. And when you're young and you get in a lot of trouble, it brings in adults to your life, especially when you don't have a father. Other adults come in, and other adults try to tell you what they did to arrive at where they were, with the hopes that you would get motivated. But when I looked at where they were, I wanted nothing to do with that. So when they would tell me what to do, I shut off already. I'm going, I don't want to end up there. So I know I don't want to end up having you talk to me, but I definitely don't want to end up where you're just assuming I want to end up. So, yeah, listen, man. Yeah, that's that for today. This was a 40-minute advertisement for some new shirts that our friend Keith made. ZenBitSlap.com. And anyone who buys a shirt, we're gonna send you a mimeograph answer to what's with the name ZenBitSlap.com. We'll finally reveal exactly origins, or as some people say, the origins of ZenBitSlap.com. It wasn't what you thought it may have been. No. All right, that's it. Yeah, any questions? No. Oh, hold on.
I thought, it's not so much a question, but I really appreciated the insight about not only does being identified as a self have a way of reinforcing a false solidity of events, but there's also times when there's a realization that giving false concreteness to events ends up reinforcing self. For example, driving along, feeling no real self, feeling empty, spacious, happy, notice the traffic light. Out there, the event turning orange. That situation then becomes powerful. There's going to be lateness to the next appointment. And then it suddenly occurs to a self that is true. So by giving substance to events or for consciousness to empower the event out there, I mean, it was just an orange light. It was just happening. But it was created as, that will delay, this is now a bad event. And that's happening to me. So that was a deep realization that it wasn't the self that gave the individual self that gave the power to those events. In this case, those events consolidated a sense of self.
Well, yes, because
It comes
see,
from
the
both ways.
events are claimed to imply there was a one that was before the events.
Yes.
And so these events are bothering the one that was before the events because before the event there was other events. Yeah, that were nicer, let's say. Or there were ones that were just like this, and I definitely don't want to fucking go through another event like the last traffic jam. Yeah, it goes on and on. But there's always the verbing, and then the claiming to imply the noun, and then the noun's presupposed before the verbing. That's the formula. You see it, and it doesn't mean anything, because you're not going to get out with that either.
It can get really bad where you're not late and you get stopped by a red light and then you're like, why am I so upset? I have no reason to be upset, and you're trying to figure out why you should be such an asshole.
And realize that's not you again.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's how bad it can get.
This is what I'm saying.
It's not even based on events
See,
anymore.
all that stuff, you just saw a little snippet of it.
Yeah.
What would happen if all that stuff, which is still going to occur, instead of reinforcing what you're not, would reinforce to what you are, what you're not? Yeah? You know what I mean? You would see what all of this production or implying of self, you would see it as not you. The same as, because you're not going to, the gathering of info is going to happen. We're like a fulcrum that's taking in information. You're not going to change that flow, but there can be a change in how it's used. So in one case, all of this shit that's happening is reinforcing the idea of really what's not happening. Paul, yeah? Now the same information can be used, yeah, to reinforce a clarity as what I am about what I'm not. It's beautiful, really, yeah? I mean, it doesn't say you got to stop, or no, it's just, haven't you had that happen where you're in a situation and you've had a fixed view of it maybe, and suddenly the tables turn and you see it in a new way? That's exactly what I'm talking
At a red
about.
light.
What?
At a red light.
It can change, yeah? See, the habits are you think this is and this, and suddenly it changes. So here's all the information, all this false evidence being used to support something appearing to be real, which is the one who's having the evidence, yeah? Now we're going to use the same thing, but change the meaning. Now, all this evidence that was used to support what wasn't real will now support what's real, seeing what it's not, which is all this fucking false evidence. Yes? The false evidence, if you see it as false evidence, it reinforces a clarity. If you take it to be true, it reinforces a cloudiness. Yeah.
Such a mind fucker, because you get like pulled in with feelings and everything. And it's like,
Just see you're not that, and then you realize you won't be struggling. You just go through what we've been trying to avoid most of the time. Really, you just fucking, yeah, I'm bummed out today. Doesn't mean anything. Really? Oh yeah, it probably will pass. Yeah.
So would you say this being convinced, this being convinced of what we're not, do you think that, you talk about the lens, the aperture, how it kind of goes back and it sees what it's not. I mean, does it take time for that to really land, because it's in the habit of that aperture coming up and then going back?
Yeah. There's no road answer to that.
Right.
But that's why we have talks to reinforce the possibility before it's forgotten and becomes an impossibility. So by having weekly meetings, you can keep, in a weird way, the idea of you can prop up the opened aperture. Yeah. So hopefully it's a habit of, yeah, it'll break that habit. So there'll be a movement of this, but you'll see it from this. What's happening is the movement as this is capturing attention and interest, and you don't see it from here. You're seeing it in here. Yeah? But at the same time, in timelessness, can see that and not lose this. Yeah? You can see the clamping down of apertures, but from a wider aperture. Yeah? Instead of, that's what happens. you have a sense of the wider aperture, and then the attention and interest is drawn to the closing, and then the language sort of way is say, oh, I lost it, I'm now here, but you're not. Yeah, you're not here. It's appearing that you're here, but it doesn't mean you're there. And you can even see it in time. You won't be there forever. It changes, and then it goes back. Yeah. So you stop being fooled after a while about its rush to length of time when you're in, you know, oh, I've lost it. No, just fucking sit still. Something, you'll see a bird and bing, it'll bounce back up. And then you'll realize all this, there's not a me going from here to there to there's nothing like that. There's not a me that's like this vague thing that are at different apertures. It's not, it doesn't go that way. There is, the smaller the aperture, the bigger the me, in a sense, yeah? Me. But in fact, the bigger or smaller me isn't a me, yeah? So it's like, you know, in this case, I remember it clearly. I got introduced to this idea. I went to a meeting in Berkeley, and I heard this lady speak, and it didn't matter what she said, but it triggered, and I had read some books by Ramesh Balsekar. So the idea was novel, and something was keen on it, because I had done Buddhism and other stuff, and I could feel something was off with the modalities that had happened already. I just, you know, and I was over blaming me for the failures. Something's off. And so I heard it, okay? And then I shared because something triggered, because I walked in there thinking I was observing emotional states, physical states, mental states, yeah? But there was the assumption this was the me, what I am, observing all this. I saw, just from the satsang space, that no, that was a mental state, claiming to be me, seeing other mental states. Wow, it was pretty cool. So the aperture, I got a free sample of the aperture. Wait a minute. So I went back out, read a little bit books, you know, next few months. I didn't do anything that much. And just entertaining ideas. And then I caught that same thing about 7 times, where there would be a statement, a subtle statement that it was me seeing more subtle emotional states, mental states, but then it would always be revealed that was a mental state, the claiming of being the me. I caught it about 7 times, and then there was like a leap, in a sense, like the 100 monkey phenomena. I wish I could, you know, bottle it, but something was got that, oh, that's just the way it is. There's going to be see, you think this is the way it is, and then you recognize it, and then this should stay this way it is. No, there's just, there's that which you're not going, there's going to be a presentation of you as being where you're at, yeah? No matter how subtle or large or small or whatever, just get used to it. You start seeing it. And so maybe when you're thinking the first time, oh, that's why I'm disqualified. You know? No, it doesn't have the power to disqualify you. There's just a faith that it has the power to disqualify you. You going in here doesn't mean you're not that. It does not mean that. It doesn't mean it. It doesn't imply I've lost it. It doesn't. Because that's what generates the fear and what generates the discomfort. Oh, I really like being, you weren't there either. So that which is bitching about having to move wasn't there anyway. Yeah, they're all appearances. There's not one where 7 times it's an appearance and suddenly it's really good. It's not that way. That's the fucking fervent hope of self that it's going to coagulate as a new position, free of all the qualities of self that it didn't like, and be like a super non-self as a self. That's not, I don't think that's available. You hope it is. It drives a lot of seeking, but I just put it to rest. It's just going to be, the system is going to systemized. That's what it does. As long as you're here in this format, alive, breathing, you better get used to it. It doesn't, you're not gonna convince it. It doesn't.
Because these are selfing machines, right?
Exactly.
Selfing
You're not
machines,
gonna
so-
convince it that, oh, okay, get over yourself. No, it's just, it's how it works, you know? That's the best way to look at it, is see it almost as a machine, and you catch the machinery, and you're not fooled by the product it implies, yeah? Because there's a lot of different products with the same machinery, yeah? And maybe they say made in Paul or made in Steve, but it's a production line. You just recognize it after a while, hopefully. And if not, sit with someone who, you know, has a certainty around it, and they'll share that certainty, and then you'll be certain of it. Yeah, because you'll come here and you'll listen for years or read Nidagadat or whatever, and you'll see the other futility of still living in that hope and expectation that you're going to get it. Yeah. This is the obscuring agent. It's not going to be redeemed or clarified. You're not going to get a super filter. It's going to obscure. That's what it does. That's its role, so to speak. Yeah, yeah. What it really needs, which you can't offer it if you take it to be you, is acceptance. It wants the acceptance that it's a machinery, really. That it's a compilation of imaginary samskaras and shit like that are formulated and fixated by faith that it's a thing. Yeah, and the thing it needs most really is acceptance for just what it is. Yeah, and if you're identified as it, it'll never get rest because you'll constantly be whipping it or blaming it or expecting more from it. And it's just, you know, it's running the best it fucking can with a crazy GPS. I mean, you gotta really, yeah. All right, well, let's go, oh, anyone want a shirt? How much, tell me how much it costs you, because I'm gonna charge like $40. No.
I would make the suggestion of selling them for at least 25.
$20, $20. So there's new shirts. Start fucking wearing them. And now let's pass the basket. I think there's a basket right behind you, behind that